Andrii Soldatenko talks about crash test of Django ORM. Thank you, Andrii.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for attending my talk in this Sunday morning, as like yesterday and Saturday morning. And today we try to figure out how to crash test Django. What is a crash test? And why do we need to do crash tests? And why do we, as a programmer, be in a critical thinking? A crash test usually is a form of destructive testing of something. That's why we still live, because we driving every day. I found that in Italy, you guys drive very aggressive, and it's funny because I had idea to rent a car and go through the country, but I'm afraid a little bit because I'm driver like lasts only 2 years, and I'm not sure that I can like go to it. Okay. Usually the world is swimming in articles and books about Django and Django ORM itself, and I'm not going to teach you to do some very simple tutorials, etc. My talk is proposal to test Django ORM only using principle Pareto, like you have 80% of functionality, you need to test it, and you always have like 20% of time, because we have only like limited amount of time. And what I'm going to do, I will show you important features and capabilities about Django, comparing Django ORM and SQL features using PostgreSQL. And traditionally, ORM is presented from bottom fashion to top, but I will start from real world examples, because every day when you like PyCon Italy finish, you go to the computer, you start open Jira, start resolving your problems, and you can think that it's not a like something very simple. Your customer called you and said, please, I need this report, I need this functionality, and it's usually not so simple as tutorials or whatever. That's why I expect, yeah, it's in the next slide. Yeah, maybe you know me, maybe not. My name is Andrii Soldatenko, I'm from Ukraine. I work mostly remotely in TopTel. I have my own startup which is placed in Australia. It's quite not so far to Italy and Ukraine. And I like solve difficult problems. And last year I helped to migrate lots of projects to Python 3.6. What we are talking about today, I expect that you have already basic understanding of relational model and how Django works. And my goal is to help you start write effective and idiomatic backend code. Usually, like last year, I've been in like 5 or 6 PyCons, and I always met my friend, it's Andrii. He's also from Ukraine. He's a Python course developer. He wrote IO HTTP library. He's very famous, and we always had lots of discussions because I think he's been last year in PyCon Italy. And on each talk we see together with Andrii like lots of examples about benchmarks. We do benchmarks of all, but all benchmarks, as you maybe know this article about this famous guy, 1 million requests per second. If you did not have a chance to review it, please do. In this article, as in lots of talks, we perform a huge amount of requests per second, but the business cases is stupid simple, like get data, parse JSON, I don't know, without any database, cache, whatever. because now you have, in typical project, you have not only just Django and Postgres, you have Redis, you have probably Celery or something else, you have Elasticsearch, etc. That's why these examples and this article is like, if you want to do benchmarks, you first write benchmark, then you like benchmark driven development, then you create code which pass this benchmark, and that's why how this guy get 1 million requests. And why I'm trying to explain you, because I try to find these new modern features from Postgres and Django and how it can help you to work together. And I will do it in like some session. We have test, we have see pass it on fail and see the results. It's my stack. I use Python 3.6 on production, like with, I have 3 projects and it's all in Python 3.6. Like last week I upgraded to 3.6.1, it's like everything works. Django 1.11 just released, it's Postgres and Docker. Okay. This is Django roadmap. And as I showed yesterday, probably, if you did not see it, this is PyCon Italy, red line. And in next 2 years, I think less than next 2 years, in 2018, Django will not support Python 2 at all. And can you please raise a hand who use Python 2 still in production? Okay. You guys should be, if you use Django, you should keep in mind that like it will no longer support. And my favorite PRs that merged to Django show you if you drop Python 2, you see, you just add 6 lines and you remove 2,000 lines from your code. And it's a real good example why you should migrate to Python 3. As I said before, I'm not going to show you dummy examples. I have real world example. I worked last year I worked in big company which provides consumer news. This company has like 7 million users per month, and it's still a little bit down, but 2 years ago it was like 8 millions. And during this application I found my research. Also I would like to show you some ideas where I get it to my talk. It's just David Rosenstein book, The Essence of SQL. It's the best book ever written on SQL, even today. It's only 118 pages. And the book covers what I consider about any SQL, which crucial to any SQL programmer. And David show you how to think through a problem and arrive at an answer. And the solution provided by David mostly oriented on set thinking, except on typical procedure thinking when you think about functions. As I said, I created small project. I call it Django crash test, and I try to put all examples, and I contributed still to show how Django grows or not, which nuances, because usually you see some like not real examples, and the most thing that you can't repeat all my research. That's why I created this project. This project includes simple university database with 5 tables, and these tables has specific design to crash not only Django, but you can crash any database. And I built it, by the way, with Django Graphis, if you ask me. And this table, it's the same table, but with PyCharm. It's preferable for me to read. You have 5 tables: student, course, professor, teach, and take. Student can take a course. professor can teach a course. And some simple fields like number, name, age. Okay, let's start. But before, I just very quickly to remind you a little bit about relational model. And now, as you know, we have 7th version of SQL standard, which was published in, I hope, like 6 years ago. First relational model, like described, I don't know, like 57 years ago by Edgar Code. And when I heard that somebody said, "Oh, you should use NoSQL, SQL databases died," I think it's not true, because it's something that we used last 57 years. It makes sense. Okay, and very two simple ideas. Any SQL can split it in two big parts. It's data definition language. It used to define data structures. Yeah, like in my example, I just can create a course, and or I can add constraint. And data manipulation language. It's used to manipulate data itself. You can select data, you can insert, update. I think everybody know it. I just refresh it. It's last simple slide, I hope. Okay. And I found all my ideas in PostgreSQL Hackers, its mail list, where PostgreSQL developers team lives, and you can find. I mean, you should not be a Postgres core developer, but you can at least read it, and it's amazing resource of very interesting data, especially if you're interested in new features. And one of them, my guru, it's Tom Lane. He, like 70 years ago, he was listed as one of the top 10 contributors around the whole open source in the world. He wrote 1% of the all open source code. Maybe they skip JavaScript, but everything that's written in C, it's 1% but by Tom Lane. Okay, it's just relic. Just return back to what is object relation mappers or ORM. It's just one that comes built in with Django, and it makes easy for new developers to be more productive without needing to have a large body of knowledge. But what you can also do, you can replace tables with models, you can do queries with chains of methods calls. It's the main idea of Django ORM. But problem that when you start working with ORM, sometimes you expect something that it's not the same as Django ORM does, except that you can just go and see in source code. Let's start from primary keys. Primary keys is just fundamental concept. And in Django, if you don't specify primary key explicitly, Django will automatically do it itself. That's why I commented this line. And so you don't need to set primary to true. And if you want, you can override it. Yeah. And my goal with my database, I would like to create a student, and I would like to not use ID primary key, because it's not mandatory for database to call it ID. And you can just do a trick, yeah, you can do number or whatever. Because I would like to be as similar as my database model. And the primary keys field is read-only. And you change the value, and then it's automatically created when you create new object. Or if you update it, we use it. What if I want to create two primary keys? Do you have ideas what's happened if I run this code? I just want ID and number, whatever, because I will open a little bit door. Postgres is not like restrict to use 2, 3, 5, 7 primary keys. Any ideas what will be the output? Let's do just one crash test of Django. It will be exception, as expected, because Django has lots of dynamic stuff that we use later, and it just asserts that it should be one field in one model with primary key. It's weird, but it's how Django works. Okay, but we are all engineers, and you can do this. You can create a table, you can set primary key, you can do ID number, everything works. But if I want to do the same with Django, how can I do it? Yeah, and one blocker why it's not possible, at least for now, it's because we use Django itself hard-coded meta pk. It's like attribute where you store your primary key. And not a problem that it's hard-coded pk itself. It can be any name, but it one. I mean, only one pk in meta. I mean, you can't do meta pk and tuple. And why it's happened? Because first, we should think about backward compatibility of content types. And the most useful thing that why we love Django, it's admin interface. And as you can see, if you go to admin interface, you have a hard-coded structure of URLs. You have application name, you have model name, and you have PK. It's like primary key. That's why it's a little bit tricky to cover it. But okay, what another solution I can propose for you? I can do unique together. It's, by the way, from Stack Overflow. But it's not the same as previous statement, and we can just check it because it will just create constraint which set one primary key to ID and constraint to ID and number should be unique. It's tricky, but for database it's not the same. Okay, just remind you with our database. What if we want to ask who takes the course 112, just CS, computer science 112? It's easy, yeah. You can do just filter and you can put the course name or course number. But if you not run values as student, you just stack in lots of queries. That's why what Django do itself is just work something like it. And I highly recommend, I show you a little bit later, to turn on all SQL traces when you work with Django itself, because sometimes it's absolutely unpredictable results. What student numbers and names of students who take course 112? It's the same. You just can use values and you join using values and you need a number. It's first, as for me, it's like big crash, but Django core team said it's like semantic, but writing joins using like filter and underscore and then using values, reference to names, it looks pretty not super easy for if you just start yesterday with Django. I mean, you need like spend some time to teach yourself to write your ORM statements as it should be as more effective SQL as it can be. And I mean, for me, and let's say today, if I sit and start writing it from scratch with you, I'm not sure that I do it very quickly from my mind. And that's why I always turn on logging, and I will show you how to do it. Okay. Who takes the course 112 and 114? And it's tricky. In Django you can do it very easy. You can do in statement and you will see the same in clause, in predicate where, and you can do another trick. But also you should keep in mind, in you can replace, any ideas how? What is equivalent in SQL in another expression? Morning, Sunday, I understand. Maybe coffee, guys. We can go together and drink a little. Just how we can rewrite it or just refactor. It's a typical question, by the way, in interview, how to rewrite it. Any ideas? Nobody? It's super stupid simple or it's super stupid hard? Okay, I will help you. Because I grab a coffee, only difference. You can do with or statement anywhere course in and like in tuple, by SQL tuple I mean, you can rewrite as many as you have clauses with or statement. It's absolutely equivalent and it's a little bit more typing, but it works the same. And what I like from Django, you can teach yourself to do the same as in SQL. You can import this magic Q class and you can write this interesting expression and it automatically transform absolutely to the same if you want. Okay, you know answer, you remember it. Next question. Who takes both courses 112 and 114? And you see this code, but this code doesn't work. We have mistake, and who can find this mistake? I will bring a beer to engineer who find a mistake. Okay, go ahead. Can you please more loudly? Not exactly, but you are very close. Go ahead. Okay, I will try to help you with, maybe it will be easy. I'm not sure. Find mistake or just see database. Any ideas? How many backend engineers in this room? Okay, yeah, but I'm not just. I mean, it's tricky. By the way, I spoke this talk in Russian language, and nobody answered it. I don't know why, but it's tricky, and it's how. I mean, it's okay. I will try to help you. You have a table. You have a table course. Let's keep join. You have a table course, you have a course ID, and it's not you can't filter one table by one field with two values at the same time. It's like I speak here and in the same room at the same time. It's impossible because it's table. Like one line, it's course ID 112, and that's it. Another line can be 114, and the mistake of this query is that this query will return nothing every time. You run it and it will return nothing. But it's understandable in SQL, but it's not super easy in ORM, and that's not a bug of Django ORM. It's just you should keep in mind and how to work on it. Okay, go ahead. I have another tasks. Maybe you can win a beer. Table inheritance. Table inheritance, it's a problem of modern, it's a new feature of modern database. Postgres support table inheritance. It's very useful. You can create a student which similar to professor and only difference is that student have no salary, have no rank, and student has no department. And you can do inherit from student, and you will not duplicate the code, but Postgres will accurate use this feature. You can do this trick in Django, but it will not use inherits. You can, like 4 or 3 types of model inheritance. You can use it. You can use abstract models. You can use when Django copy-paste the whole table, and in other cases. Why it's not working in Postgres? Mark Tamlin is one of the big contributors, ultimately rejected this feature with funny comment for me. You can prove it in the ticket. I'm not really sure how we can handle it. What? They just said, I'm not really sure. But when I spoke with contributor of Django, they don't like this my slide. But they said that they really spent lots of time to think how to handle it. And Postgres developers advise to Django developers to avoid this functionality because it's mostly a database feature. Yeah, let's return back. All these examples that I showed, I use some logging, and I highly recommend you use logging of SQL statements when you do manage PyShell, when you, debug something. For first way how to do it is just you can import connection and you can see the all connection queries. And yeah, if you have lots of connections and you will see big mess, but if you just know that it's one connection and it's only you can do it. Next, my favorite one is Django extension library. You can run it with print SQL and it's will easy. Each statement that you run in the shell, it will automatically print all SQL. And it's how I can 100% sure that everything that I write in Django, ORM, and Python, absolutely the same queries. Second tip or variant is just you probably use Django debug toolbar if you're not full RESTful services with Angular, for instance. You can, it's my favorite tool also. You can just run it and you have the same debug shell SQL. But all this sugar under the hood runs the same, enables the same SQL logging, which you can do manually. It's like just import logging, get logger DjangoDB backends and set it to debug, and set stream handler if you need. And you see the same. It's just different ways how to do it, because I expect that you have different projects, different tools, etc. Okay. And last one, but not least, about logging, you can do capturing queries context from tests. And why it's important, you can do it directly on production. You can IPDB to it and see what's happening, run a query and see what's happening. But preferable way for production, it's New Relic. I'm not like put some logos, but example should be like this. I really like New Relic or similar tools when you can see which queries is not so fast for your application. Okay. Next example, how to do SQL string concatenation. It's easy. You can use another like magic function or class F, and you can do like with updates statement. And if you need really big update or huge update, and you can do it with F statement. But I have for you some homework task. The task is, you can ping me later in Twitter and I will send you some presents from my company if you find the solution. The idea how to update 5 million records in Postgres using Django or using without Django. Like to not wait lots of time. Okay, another quick task like Django ORM crash test, it's column analysis. You can do select, extra select, and you can like ls the name, and it's absolutely the same if you run SQL as some ls. It's very useful. Yeah, I know we have more time. Yeah, go faster. Unfortunately, yeah, we have no lots of time. I skipped some very important features. You can do SQL functions. You can find more in this link or in my project, where some examples of fail or pass crash test. Migration problem solved in Django, and it's really cool. From version 1.7, no need to install SAUS. But keep in mind when you play with migration that you do something correctly. Because if you rename a table, if you rename a column, it will log the whole column and users can insert or update. And usually, as you can see, I prefer SQL migrate to see what's exactly Django generate in this migration, because sometimes it's something strange. Full text search problem. Full text search problem covered mostly in my talk in last year of Python. You can find it in the internet. But some new features that that released after this talk, it's new in Django 1.10, but since Postgres 8.3, you can do Django search using default full text search engine. And you can find lots of examples, and one of the crash tests that I did, it's just annotate search vector, and you see it use plain to text search query and use function text search vector. It's absolutely slow if you have big column. That's why you need to create this field in your model first. It will generate text search field in your table, and then you should create something like a trigger because if one transaction updates something, trigger will update text search field. There is no ability from Django how to do it. And if you want to patch or use another text search functions, let's say you want to use text search query, it's more advanced function from Postgres. You should do some patch. I patched the search query. I'm going to submit it to Django and itself. And before I'm going to do it, you can just use this patch. And you can use weights. If you know what is search weights, if you don't know, just you can find my talks about full text search engines. And last but not least is just in new 11 version Django, we have support subquery, exist, outerref, etc. There are lots of discussion about asynchronous and async statements, and Mike Bayer, who created SQL Alchemy, created this interesting tweet where he tried to perform asynchronous databases, and he really degraded speed. You can find more info using this link. I expect that we have no time for it. And last, try to first test your settings of Postgres. You can do it with pgbench command line statement. It's just example. It will run thousands of times, insert, deletes, and updates, and see how fast your Postgres server responds. It's really useful because sometimes if you use Postgres default settings, it will not so fast. And let's do final thoughts. Thanks David for this great book and ideas that I spent before writing this talk. Yeah, we finally have Django contrib Postgres, especially Django contrib Postgres search, which written in last 2 years. I like observe. Next, if you ask a question, my next talk will be crash test SQL alchemy, and you can find the whole results by using this link. Thanks you for attention. Enjoy your time and questions.
Oh, thank you.